thank you to all of you for being here. This is LULAC's Florida Education Luncheon, where we celebrate the accomplishments of our students and education in general. Education is something that we are all very passionate in this room. It doesn't matter what background or where we come from. We know that education is the equalizer for everyone to move into an adequate living and being able to have an adequate salary. So no matter where we are at or where we come from, when we have an adequate education, it levels the playing field for all of us. So we're very proud of being able to host this event, and most of all, to have sponsors. If you are a sponsor for this event, I would like for you to please stand, because without your sponsorship, we would not be able to do that. And we will recognize them a little later in the program. I also would like to recognize Artie Leichner and Susan Leichner, who very graciously every year donate a full scholarship. This year we're blessed in that we had someone who worked for Dade County Public Schools and passed away. Her husband has been working with us pro bono on some legal issues, and the money that we would have spent on legal fees, he has asked us to donate it to a LULAC member who will be attending university for a master's degree program or a graduate program, either in law or accounting. And we were able to award that to one of our students. And we want to thank Miguel San Pedro for doing that as well. And for all of you who have participated throughout the year in our different scholarship events, because with this, we were fortunate to be able to give 6 scholarships today. We want to recognize our public officials who have taken time of their busy schedule to be here. So Representative Javier Fernandez, thank you for being here. Is there anyone else that came in the room after I started so I don't miss anyone? Okay, Carlos Montes de Oca, Vice Provost, Humboldt International University. We want to recognize you. Thank you. And then this event would not be possible without LULAC Florida. LULAC Florida is the oldest, and what can I tell you about LULAC Florida? It's a grassroots membership. What does that mean? That we do it voluntarily. Everybody volunteers, they form councils, they dedicate themselves to a vision, and they go out to accomplish that vision. Here in Florida, we have 14 strong councils, mainly in Miami-Dade and also in Tampa. We also have one in Sarasota and in Orlando. And for my LULAC members, please stand up, because your work does not go unnoticed. And thank you for everything that you do every single day. And our Vice President to LULAC Florida for the Southeastern region, please stand up. This is Dr. Lidia Medrano. We also want to recognize her. And with that, we start our program. And our students, if you're a student, thank you. Thank you for being here. We have some students that are actually in orientation, some that are stuck in a flight, because that's what happens today with airlines. So, but we have representatives for them to be able to get the awards. So with that, we're going to go ahead and start the program. We would like to start with our Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to have David Sinclair and his dad. Thank you.
Let us stand. I am David Sinclair. I would like my father, John Sinclair, who's a member of LULAC, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our invocation will be by Reverend Marcelino Rivera.
At this time, I would like to invite you to join me in prayer. If anyone want to stand, whatever you feel comfortable. Dear God, thank you for this gathering of leaders. Thank you for your presence in this place. And thank you for the food we're going to eat. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Dr. Gallen is supposed to be here, so we might not be able to introduce him through the program, but we want to recognize him. He wanted to be here for his student that is being recognized today. Luby Navarro also sends her regrets of not being able to be here because she had another previous commitment. But we do want to acknowledge our school board members that have reached out to LULAC, Florida. Now we have a very special guest. I want to introduce Maria Teresa Fernandez, a LULAC member, and someone who is very dear to us because when we started here in Miami-Dade seeking and trying to fund scholarships, and we started with one scholarship, she was instrumental in that. And every time that we're able to recognize someone who helps us in that plight, it's very monumental to all of us. So I would like to call Maria Teresa Fernandez to please come up and share a few words.
Hello, everyone. I'm a little loud, sorry. I hope that all of you who have been here for the convention go back to your communities totally revitalized, enriched with new ideas, and having made many new friends who share your objectives and who are eager to achieve them with you. As she said, my name is Maria Teresa San Pedro. I'm a retired educator who worked in Miami-Dade Public Schools for 41 years, while raising a family of 4 children in whom I tried to instill a love for education. Several years ago, my late colleague and friend, Maria Costa, invited me to become a founding member of LULAC Chapter 7232. I was familiar with LULAC because of the work it has done to ensure that all children have equal access to education. But I had no idea how pleasantly surprised I would be to work with the motivated, dynamic, and hardworking group of individuals who made up the chapter and who accomplished so much in a very short amount of time. However, what I never could have guessed was that I would be here this afternoon to tell you about someone who's very special and dear to me for many reasons. One of them being that he has thrived on education and now wants to make sure that everyone can advance thanks to education just like he did. It is safe to say that our next speaker, Javier Fernandez, has been preparing for the work that he's about to undertake from the time that he was born. When he was a year old, our speaker was photographed lying down next to his father, who at the time was a law student, with a law book open above his face. Never mind that the book was upside down. It was reported on many occasions while he was attending preschool that he cried profusely on weekends because there was no school. Throughout elementary and middle school years, Javier was known not only as someone with high grades, but also as a responsible student who got along well with others and who participated in athletics and extracurricular activities. During Javier's years at Columbus High School, he excelled academically, taking honors and advanced placement courses and participating in the Erasmus Society, a group of students who received enrichment in classical education beyond what was being learned in school courses. Javier still loved sports, participated in football, track and field, and cross country. And just as when he was younger, he got along very well with students and the faculty and was elected homecoming king. During those 4 years, Javier's love for serving others really flourished. This love for service comes from his deep-rooted faith in God. And he, during those 4 years, really did a lot of community service. 2 specific service activities that he did for a prolonged time was to clean the food warehouse at Camilla's house periodically. Camilla's house services homeless individuals here in Miami. And another activity that he did along with other members of Christian Life Community was to collect money on Northwest 103rd Street and the Palmetto Expressway to raise funds to educate special needs individuals and to build a facility for them known as the Learning Center, which today exists on Miller Road. By senior year, Javier's hard work paid off. Javier was recruited by many top universities and decided to attend Colby College in Maine, which awarded him an academic scholarship. Javier was a rarity at Colby. There were students from many states and foreign countries who had never met someone born to Cuban parents. To avoid the confusion in Johnson Hall caused by students going to his dorm and asking for his room in order to meet him, he decided to hang up a picture of a Cuban crocodile on his door. Javier made many friends from diverse backgrounds, and as in the past, enjoyed playing football and participating in campus activities. He continued to do well academically while majoring in government and Spanish, and his junior year, he went abroad and did a semester at the University of Salamanca in Spain. Upon graduation, Javier completed a full-time, unpaid internship at the White House and supported himself by working nights and weekends at an ice cream parlor, leaving him no leisure time. Afterward, he returned to Miami and put himself in service mode again. He worked in the nonprofit sector in agencies such as the Legal Services of Greater Miami as an advocate for affordable housing and community development. Afterward, he went to work for the city of Miami as part of the mayor's staff and eventually became chief of staff. Javier decided to continue his education and enrolled in law school at the University of Miami, where he graduated with honors while working part-time. He went on to enjoy success as an attorney. However, success in his career was not enough for him. He needed to serve the community in a different capacity. A few months ago, Javier made up his mind to run for a seat in the Florida State Legislature. He thought it was time to give back to his community by working on issues such as affordable housing, transportation, and of course, education. Javier understands that a high-quality education is what helped him succeed. He wants to pay it forward by ensuring that everyone, no matter what their origin, race, economic status, or gender, has access to high-quality public education, as it is crucial for the individual's possibility of advancement, and in Javier's own words, fundamental for the economic growth of the community and to combat the growing income inequality that threatens our quality of life. At this time, I would like to introduce a champion for education, Florida State Representative for District 114, my son, Javier Fernandez.
Thank you. Good morning or afternoon. I'm not quite sure where we are in the day yet, but it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. Again, my name's Javier Fernandez, and let me begin by thanking a few people in this room, beginning with Madi and the team here at LULAC for putting on a fantastic event and really allowing us to have conversation across the state on issues of very important concern. More importantly, create the kind of networks that we need in order to transform Florida here going forward. For those of you who know me personally, you know that I'm most uncomfortable with people speaking about me. So I'm probably at my most uncomfortable right now, given my mom's very generous introduction. frankly reminding me of things I had long forgotten about. So thank you for that history. And I will clarify, while I was elected homecoming king of an all-boys Catholic school, the vote was conducted at Lourdes Academy, so in case there's any confusion. But as you can tell, my commitment to service is born out of my mom's faith and belief in the future of our community based on the success of our children. And so it's because of her excellent example as an educator for 42 years that I stand here today. Clearly, my accomplishments are all hers, and my successes are hers as well. I'm also proud to say that this commitment to LULAC on the part of my mother is not just shared by her, but now by my uncle, Miguel, who has decided to support an aspiring law student with a scholarship. And I've long shared with my mom and others in the family that my uncle is basically a lawyer's version of St. Jude. He's really the patron saint for the helpless and the desperate. And in no small measure in his private law practice every day, he really prioritizes service to others above profit. And so I'd like to recognize him and thank him for that tremendous example over these many years. So whoever the lucky recipient is has big shoes to fill, but an excellent example to follow in Miguel. So I was given 20 minutes to speak. I'll try not to bore you for that entire period of time. So I thought I'd start with something that's really kind of grabbed my heart lately, and that's Lin-Manuel Miranda's musical Hamilton. And for those of you who are history buffs and enjoy an occasional Broadway show, this is really an all-you-can-eat buffet. So, and while I haven't had a chance to see it yet in person, I have tortured my children over the last 18 or 24 months or so since the show's been released by playing this almost incessantly in their car, and have been really heartened by the fact that they've taken to it in incredible measure. It's really provided a huge engagement opportunity for them to learn about our country and government, and an incredible story about a remarkable individual along the way. They've learned about the Virginia Compromise and the early years of the Republic, and that's because of the multifaceted genius of that particular play. It's an incredible commentary on the founding of our country through the composition of the cast. But more importantly, it's, I think, an incredible tool for education in the form in which it's been presented, right? It's been presented with hip-hop and rap at its center in a way that makes history really relatable to kids and adults alike. And so if you've heard the musical, the first song, Alexander Hamilton, starts with an interesting question. And I'm not going to sing it because I would frankly ruin it. So I'm just going to read it to you, which is probably less exciting than if you heard it yourself. But it starts, how does a bastard, orphan, son of a whore, and a Scotsman dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean by providence and impoverished and squalor grow up to be a hero and a scholar? There's a lot packed into that first refrain. You think about this person who transcended so many challenges, became the $10 founding father, as he's described in the musical, and worked very hard and got a lot farther, as is said, by working a lot harder and being a lot smarter and by being a self-starter. All qualities that we lionize in today's society. But those hero stories that we talk about, including this play, often forget to emphasize what I think is probably the most important part of each of our individual success. And that is the informal networks and communities that support people to take on the challenges of their time. So in Alexander Hamilton's story, I think it bears noting that it's the small community of St. Kitts and Nevis that decides, after he pens a very remarkable essay following a tragic event on the island, a hurricane, to raise money to send this very talented young man to New York to pursue, of all things, an education. And through that collective action, it unleashes a remarkable change in history that impacts not just the Caribbean and that island, but it impacted, frankly, our country in ways that we probably still do not completely appreciate. In our time, we continue to see the greatness of America manifest itself in much the same way. We've got some of the most extraordinary accomplishments in our society have been born of the talents of first-generation immigrants like Alexander Hamilton. Locally, we've got plenty of great examples of those success stories. Mike Fernandez and Armando Cadena, for example, are just two names I will mention in today's discussion. Both are incredibly talented people, but I think each would certainly admit that their talent alone was not enough to propel them forward. It was really the support of the informal networks they developed that allowed their talent to meet opportunity. And so what do Alexander Hamilton or Mike Fernandez or Monica Nita have to do with the challenges we face today? And I think that we all recognize we live in very challenging times. Myself included, like many others in recent months, have been prompted into service because of a lot of the unsettling events we're seeing unfold across our society. And while many, including our president, are focused on existential threats to the greatness of our country, the greatness of America, represented in many forms, including, in their opinion, unchecked immigration and other manifestations of apparently many negative things. In my estimation, what has always and continues to make America great is the ability of an individual to rise above their humble circumstance to the loftiest of heights in our society. What many, including former Governor Jeb Bush, have dubbed as a challenge, the opportunity gap. Today, Bloomberg reported that personal wealth in the United States has, or actually internationally, has grown 12% since 2016. It's a remarkable figure, $201.9 trillion of personal wealth, a figure I have a hard time wrapping my head around, with 50% of that wealth, however, held in the hands of millionaires and billionaires, up from 45% in 2012. And in North America alone, where $86.1 trillion that wealth is accumulated and amassed, 42% of the investable capital representing that wealth is held by people who have more than $5 million in assets. Similarly, in the Atlantic this month, if you're a fan of the Atlantic as I am, you probably read the article entitled The Birth of the New Aristocracy, which notes a series of troubling trends, including a consolidation of wealth. And in particular, it notes that the gains made by the top 0.01% of Americans came at the direct expense of the bottom 90% of Americans, and talks about this new aristocracy in the middle, the 9.9% of the top 10%, whose position has remained relatively unchanged amidst that transfer of wealth. Why do I highlight this? Because in that article, as I think we should all be aware, what's happening in our society is that the intergenerational earnings mobility, meaning our ability to move beyond the station our parents were born into, has become stagnant. We are now, as a country, closer in our mobility to Argentina and Chile than we are to Germany, Japan, and Canada. And I think that's a very troubling trend. My mom mentioned that I had the opportunity to go to Colby College, which I think it's fair to say is a fairly elite private college here in the United States on a full scholarship. And at the time, I was struck by just how homogenous the student body at that school was. And that was now 21 years ago that I graduated, 24 years ago since I set foot on that campus. And if you read the literature, you'll see that the trend in those schools has become more and more homogenous, not just in terms of race and ethnic makeup, but in terms of the socioeconomic status of the people that are living there is becoming increasingly troubling. A recent study indicated that in 1985, 54% of the students at the 250 most elite colleges in the U.S. came from families from the bottom three-quarters of the income distribution in the United States. Today, it's only 33%. So you're seeing a vast reduction in terms of the mobility and access to our premier educational institutions. And going back to Hamilton, he had the luxury of attending, or the fortune of attending King's College, Columbia University at the time. The trend towards the consolidation of wealth and by extension privilege was not unforeseeable. Many people over the course of the campaign, given where I came from, where I was born, have asked me why I chose to register as a Democrat just after high school. And my answer was rather simple. I sat in a U.S. history course at Columbus High School in 1992, taught by a professor who is a constituent named Professor Cunningham. And he had us read a book called The Politics of the Rich and Poor. And it's a book written by Kevin Phillips, who was a Republican who worked in the Reagan administration and became a very vocal critic of the tax reform bill that was passed in 1986. And in that book, I think it's fair to say he foretold much of what has played out in our society since then. This increasing consolidation of wealth, of privilege, and the lack of increased mobility in our society. So for the vast majority of my lifetime, the problem really has not been, in my estimation, government per se, but a government now too focused on withdrawing from the marketplace instead of righting the imbalances created by unchecked capitalism. Again, government, in my estimation, is not the problem, but the policies that we've sought to implement over the course of the last 30 years, which have reduced the vitality of the public sector, reduced its influence on the marketplace, and tried to replace them with market-focused strategies or solutions that have only served, I think, in the balance to further widen the inequality and the limits and opportunity that we're seeing play out across our society. We've implemented strategies, frankly, that have been less focused on harnessing the powers of markets to deliver benefits to the greatest number of individuals across our society, and not merely those who have access to power and capital. So it really should come to us as no surprise that we live in a day and age where increasingly opportunities are reserved for the wealthy and the well-connected, where through successive rounds of tax reform, we've sought to limit our shared obligations by reducing the tax burden on the wealthiest Americans, where our courts have sought to remove limits on political participation through precedent that has equated corporations and people. And I think at every level of government, we have sought to reduce our investment in people generally, most notably and in particular in our support for traditional public education, which is, as Marty rightly noted, the greatest equalizing force in our society. So how are we going to address the many challenges that we have going forward? Challenges like climate change, soaring budget deficits, healthcare that suffers from rising costs and very limited access, and narrowing opportunity among many others we could mention. While at the same time we narrow the path for talented individuals from humble origins, our next Hamiltons, Fernandezes, and Codinas, to access the education and opportunities that will allow society to benefit from their talents. Well, I think in everything we do going forward, and as much of you have discussed over the last couple of days, we need to adopt a policy-making focus that has equity at its center. One that reinforces the need to create pathways to prosperity and puts people, not just some people, but all the people, at the center of our policymaking. In public education, where we've seen the worst of market-driven approaches where we've prioritized charter and school choice as a mandate, policies that have by extension disadvantaged a great number of our children and left them behind in today's marketplace. We need to reverse that trend and focus on strategies that, rather than crystallize that lack of mobility, broaden the opportunities, broaden our prospects for opportunity. In areas like education and transportation, where there's no substitute for the public sector, we need to be unabashed and unapologetic for making public sector-driven strategies the solution. We need to recognize and invest in these core services that by their nature need to serve the widest swath of our society. Until we come to grips with the hard truth that market-based approaches can only inform and help refine public solutions, we are doomed to repeat many of the mistakes I think that we've made over the course of the last 30 years. And unfortunately, I think with good intentions, widen the gap between those who have and those who have not. So in closing, I'll note that if we're going to meet today's challenges and unlock the natural talent in our communities and across the state of Florida, so that many Hamiltons will one day emerge and help us fashion the solutions and create a more prosperous and successful Florida, we need to start with the recognition that that continued prosperity and our collective security rests on the realization that we are responsible for one another, and that we can only do that and accomplish that mandate when we invest in people first. Thank you for your time and attention, and I look forward to interacting with you throughout the day.
Thank you, Representative Fernandez. And we know that we have a brighter future because we've elected someone that really knows about what we need in Tallahassee. So one more seat, right? So how many more do we have to go? A lot. So our keynote speaker is here, and we are very delighted to have our former mayor of Miami Beach and our Democratic candidate for governor for Florida, Philip Levine.
Thank you. First of all, I apologize for my voice in advance. Okay, for some reason the last 3 days, I must have been speaking a lot because I've lost most of my voice, but thank God today it's coming back a little bit. So when I hear myself, I go, God, that sounds terrible. Who wants to hear that? So it's great to be here. It's an honor to be here. And Representative, great speech. And he's terrific. We're excited to have him in Tallahassee, huh? Thank you so much, Mr. Representative. You're great. Fantastic. So this is fantastic being here with you. I was in Tampa this morning and wanted to come back right away to be able to have this opportunity to address all of you. I'm honored to have my wife and daughter stopped in, Carolina, all the way in the back, right there. And they said they're gonna come listen for a few minutes and then they're off for the rest of the day. They do not want to be involved in campaigning with me. So we're on our own. But this is so important. And for me, I'll tell you a little about myself. I was a kid that grew up, in Boston and moved down to South Florida when I was 10 years old. And of course, I brought my parents with me. And I grew up in Broward County. And I'm the son of a single mom and someone who I'm the second person in the entire family to actually graduate college. And I was one of those kids that did every job you could possibly imagine, from scooping ice cream to washing cars to parking cars to washing dishes, you name it. We did it down here. And then I went to college at the great U of M, University of Michigan, of course. But to understand what this organization is about and understand how you are helping folks go to college through scholarships, that's really the key to success, to be able to give people the opportunity who wouldn't normally have it. And what these elections are about, and what truly politics and government needs to be about, is helping those people that really truly can't help themselves, that need help. And this is what it really ought to be about. And that's what I think that this year will be about, and how important these elections are going forward. Some of you know, I decided that I started as a kid working on a cruise ship. Started from nothing and got off that ship and built a little company that grew, and I sold it. Then I decided to give back because I wanted to help my community, Miami Beach. I decided to run for mayor. And by the way, I can tell you this, and the representative will probably agree. If you've ever thought about running for office, it's a great idea. We recommend it to all of you, okay? Matter of fact, it's kind of like putting yourself on that show, Survivor. Remember that show, Survivor? You can become a contestant on Survivor overnight. And I ran for mayor because I wanted to help my community. Everyone said, there's no way this guy can win. It was funny. When I ran, they said, first of all, he knows nothing about government. He has no name ID. And then they said, most of all, our city's 50% Hispanic. How in the world is this guy going to win? And of course, what they didn't realize is, puedo hablar español más o menos fluentemente. Estudié en España hace muchos años. So siempre estoy practicando. Mi esposa es cubano-americano. So en mi casa, creo que yo soy el solo gringo, pero puedo hablar más o menos, okay? So I speak pretty good. And of course, that was a big shock to my opponents at the time. But when we became mayor and did a lot of things, we just got things done. And I think what people obviously are looking for these days is just getting things done. Doing that weird thing that politicians kind of forget to do, which is, if you say you're going to do this, when you get elected, actually do it. It's probably a good idea. Matter of fact, in business, that's how we always do things. It's called a business plan. And when you don't do the things you're supposed to do, you actually go out of business and you don't make money. And matter of fact, you may get sued. So I said, in politics, it's the only profession where you're allowed to say whatever you want, and then you actually get in office, and then you do whatever you want. It shouldn't be that way. It should be you should do what you said you were going to do. And I think that's important. But folks, I became a mayor for 2 terms. And of course, everyone said, you got to run for a 3rd term because you'll just walk in, you won't have an opponent. And I said, listen, that's not a reason to run for office. I said, I know it's strange, but every single thing we said we were going to do, we did it. And if it's not finished, it's in process. We reformed the police department. We actually raised the minimum wage in Miami Beach. We fought back sea level rise. We're building a convention center. It'll be ready this year. And I said, I'm not running again. I said, I'm going to run for governor. And started traveling around the state. But, we've seen so many disappointments in the way government functions. And one of the greatest disappointments we've seen, and there's been many, was truly the embarrassing relief effort that this administration did when it came to Puerto Rico. I mean, for me, it was an embarrassment. It was insulting. I spent a lot of my life in Puerto Rico. I used to be there every single week because in the cruise ship industry, Puerto Rico is a big part of what we do. So one of the things I was proud to lead is after Hurricane Maria hit, I believe I was the first private citizen to actually bring aircraft and land in San Juan and bring in relief supplies. Matter of fact, it was interesting. All the media was there, Telemundo and Univision, and the mayor of San Juan, Carmen Cruz, was there on the tarmac. And about 2 days later, the White House, during a press conference, said, the mayor of Miami Beach landed his own planes in San Juan to help the people. Why can't you guys get it together? And the White House said, well, the mayor of Miami Beach is crazy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He didn't do that. And of course, the Telemundo and Univision folks were all laughing because they were there with me on the tarmac. He said, but what we saw was an embarrassment. What, of course, the White House didn't realize is that Puerto Rico is a part of America. As a matter of fact, Puerto Ricans are American citizens. We had to educate them to that fact, which they didn't understand. The relief effort was terrible. It's incredible. I say it all the time. I said, if we had run the Normandy invasion during World War II the way this executive team ran that relief effort, we never would have landed in Normandy and we never would have defeated the Nazis because they were a disaster. Can you imagine if this same team was there? They'd be like, the weather's too bad. We can't land in Normandy. They're shooting at us. There's no way we're going to land. I said, can you imagine how they would have handled the Berlin airlift? Berlin would have been part of the Soviet Union in 24 hours if this team that ran the relief effort had run the Berlin airlift. So here we go. Now we have a historic opportunity. And I say this everywhere I go when I talk to Puerto Ricans that are living in Florida. Never has one community had the opportunity to not only change the future of the state of Florida, but this Puerto Rican community has the opportunity to change the future of our country and change the world. Because so goes this governor's race this year, so goes the presidency in 2020. That's how important it is. So siempre cuando yo estoy hablando con los puertorriqueños que están viviendo en Florida, estoy diciendo que es muy importante, escríbete para votar. Escríbete para votar. I say it so much, I think I lost my voice. I think I lost my voice doing it. But it's a historic opportunity for us to change the narrative of our nation. For me, I live in a blended family. As I said at my dinner table, there's English and Spanish that's being spoken. Now, when I speak Spanish, everybody laughs at me, okay? As a matter of fact, my daughter, who's over there, always kind of imitates me speaking Spanish, and it's like a comedy routine when they imitate me speaking Spanish. But, siempre estoy aprendiendo más y más y más. But I think the bottom line is this, is that our country is a country that's founded upon the American dream. This is what our nation's about. This is why we fought World War II. This is why our great-grandparents did what they did to make our country safe for democracy. Every organization has a formula. Coca-Cola has the syrup. It works for them. America is the American dream. It's a country of tolerance. It's a country that welcomes folks from all over the world to come here and live your dream. And this is something that we need to build up, that we can't shut down. If I'm honored to be governor, I could tell you this. There's going to be a governor in Tallahassee, y en Miami también, okay, that will have his doors open to all the Caribbean nations and to all Latin America to make sure that Florida truly takes its role as being the capital of Latin America, because that's truly what we are and what we have become, and what great economic opportunities for everybody to share in if we open that door properly and welcome that amazing Latin influence. I could tell you that I remember being with President Obama when he took that very historic trip to Cuba. And what he said was so unbelievable. He said, listen, he said, you remember those words? He said, if you want to see what the Cuban people have done, take a look at what they did in Miami. Look at their success. Look what they have created. And I think that says so much about our community, that people from all over the world come to our city, come to our state to live their dream. And to me, that is the key to the American success story going forward. And I think we're just getting started and we're just getting rolling. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to say hello to everybody. And of course, I know this is a fantastic organization and all the great things that you do. And I look forward to working closely. I could tell you that if I'm governor, there'll be a lot of Spanish being spoken in Tallahassee, okay? So thank you so much for the opportunity to address you. And I apologize for my voice.
So as many of you know, one of the pillars that we really advocate for is Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is very dear to our heart, not only because my parents are Puerto Rican, but because Puerto Rico is part of the United States, but is treated as second-class citizens. And that is something that every American in the United States needs to change. But it gave me, I was so proud of the mayor when he landed his plane in Puerto Rico. And the vision and the pictures and everything that came through our television. And that is why we were so proud to have you as our keynote speaker. Because if you have family in Puerto Rico, you know what they're going through. And it's very easy to say to come to the United States, but jobs are not the same jobs that our parents had or that we have. Right now, people are working, they're not getting benefits, and it's very hard to sustain a family here in the United States when you don't have roots in the United States. So many have to go back because healthcare reasons, because of their children, because there's no healthcare for their children when they come here, and there's no help. Even though there are citizens, they're not treated like citizens, like in the United States, and that is a reality. So LULAC Florida would like to recognize our mayor for his philanthropy, and it's not the first time. He is very generous, and in many organizations that I go and I speak, his wallet is always open to help, and that's why we are recognizing him today. But before that, I would like to have Elizabeth Rodriguez speak a couple words.
Hi, Miami, Puerto Ricans, how are you today? I love that. I am here because I'm very honored to have Mr. Levine. I don't want to give you my bag, so I'm going to put it here. We all hoped that he could be our next governor. Applause, please. And I'm here not only to say the good things, because so many people start talking and talking and talking, and we have a lot of candidates that talk a lot. And this great human being here, he's not the kind of person that only talk. He do, and he tried to make it happen with the real things. So starting by the Hurricane Irma and Maria, before he was deciding to be in this campaign for governor, he was one of the first persons who arrived to the island. And I'm so glad because I was there working with BRAFA to authorize the airplanes to get into the island, to arrive in the island. So he was one of the second airplane that arrived in the island, bringing all the helps that the Puerto Rican needs. Thank you so much. And another thing, we have been working with him in the Puerto Rican community and the leaders of the community here in Miami. And he have been celebrating lunch here in Miami and celebrating Christmas in Anacostia, in Central Florida. Everybody knows our place in Central Florida. So he was bringing gifts to our families and kids, and he have been working with Calle San Sebastián. ¿Quién no conoce las calles de San Sebastián que celebramos tanto aquí como en Central Florida? So he have been doing a lot of work with our community. So I just wanted to be part of whatever happened in the future. My respect to you and to your family. And I need that the community of Puerto Rico, not only in the island, here in South Florida, Central Florida, and our entire Florida, that 1.5 million Puerto Ricans can see the great human being that we have in front of us, that he's not a person who only talk. He do things. So it is my honor to be here today with you and you guys. You are the most important people who are going to take the decision in the future for who you want as the governor of Florida. Thank you so much.
And LULAC Florida would like to give you LULAC Florida's Director Award to Mayor Philip Levine. Thank you for your outstanding philanthropy, commitment, and generosity to our fellow Americans in Puerto Rico.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Your words are very sweet. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Here, take your box. Let me give
Okay, get my box too. Thank you. Oh, I get the whole kit.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Goodbye. Thank you.
And now, you could go ahead and serve, we're going to go ahead and serve the lunch. So it's a buffet, so basically you just do the line and kind of get whatever food you want to get, okay? So once again, thank you for your patience, and because we know that they are on a tight schedule and we need to get them out of here, okay? So if you could go ahead and start with the lunch. And as you start sitting down, I would like to recognize someone also who gave us a scholarship, and he's running for LULAC National President, Mr. Domingo Garcia, and he'll speak to you as you're getting your lunch, but please make sure that you eat.
Gracias, Mari. As y'all line up, just real quick, my name is Domingo Garcia, and I'm a Tejano. I'm from Texas, Dallas. But 1 year ago, me and my wife, La Doctora Elva Garcia, bought a house here in South Florida, so we're now Floridians, and have joined you here in Florida. And I'm running for national president of LULAC because, let me tell you, next Saturday, I'm going to be in Brownsville, Texas. And in Brownsville, Texas, there is a prison for babies to the age of from 1 to 10 years of age. And those babies' crimes is that they came with their parents looking for a new life in the United States of America. If you have a hard time wrapping yourself, think about, if you've seen those pictures, they're held in kennels like dogs. And that should not happen to anybody in this country. LULAC needs to be standing up for the civil rights of those children, and I'm going to be there next Saturday standing up for that. And the reason I'm doing that is because, see, my father was a 17-year-old young man who came to the United States as an undocumented immigrant looking for a better life. And he came across, just like immigrants have come from Cuba, La República Dominicana, all Latin America, Ireland and Italy and all over Europe to this country looking for a better life. LULAC needs to stand up for them. LULAC needs to stand up for the veterans who have fought for this country and are not getting the benefits they deserve. 2 weeks from today, I'm going to be in Tijuana, Mexico, where 23 veterans live in an apartment complex who have been deported from this country. They served America. They fought in Iraq. They fought in Afghanistan. They fought against the enemies of this country. And then when they came back, because maybe they got a DWI, or maybe they got caught with marijuana or something, they were deported. And they were not treated the way they should be. But LULAC is going to stand up for those veteranos, and we're going to say, basta, bring those veterans back home. LULAC debe de pelear por los derechos de todas las mujeres que merecen el mismo salario que cada hombre por el mismo trabajo. LULAC debe de luchar por los ancianos que siempre han dado toda su vida con su sacrificio, su sudor y su trabajo para mejorar este país, but they don't get the benefits those seniors deserve. LULAC needs to be the voice for those ancianos who have made America really great by their work and their sweat and their tears and everything they've done. LULAC needs to be that voice. And LULAC needs to be the voice for 55 million Latinos in the United States and Puerto Rico. I was in Puerto Rico a month ago. I met with the governor of Puerto Rico. I went and I met las madres sin techos. Think about that. Madres sin techos. 1 year after hurricanes hit Puerto Rico, you still have families without roofs. We need to make sure that we get those families and Puerto Riqueño back the way it should be. Almost 4,000 to 5,000 people died in Puerto Rico. Take that, 4,000 to 5,000 people. My wife was there last week in Puerto Rico, and she was in San Juan, and there they had los zapatos de todos los que murieron. And it was row after row of shoes of the people that passed away in Puerto Rico. And what has President done about that? What has America done? LULAC needs to be the voice for the Puerto Ricanos in Washington, D.C. and across this country and say, ya basta, Puerto Rico merece los mismos derechos que cualquier otro ciudadano americano. And by the way, it's up to Puerto Rico to decide their future. But I think this flag right here, this American flag, will look so much prettier with another star. That's what I think. And now the Puerto Ricans have to decide. But wouldn't it be great if we had 2 bilingual senators, 6 bilingual congressmen in Washington, D.C., standing up for Latinos across America? I think that's something that needs to be done. Finally, let me just say, I think it's time that Florida elected a Latino governor after this governor, Levine, gets there. And I already think the first Latina or Latino president of the United States is here. He or she is somewhere between Alaska and Florida, between New York and Texas. And we need to make sure we register people to vote, we turn them out to vote, we mentor candidates, and we turn them and we elect the first Latino or Latina to the White House of the United States in the next 4 to 8 years. I think we can do that if we fight together as LULACers. So, Mari, muchísimas gracias. What we need to remember is, finally, mira, I'm amazed when they say they're illegal aliens. Son animales, son violadores, son criminales. When, if you remember, estamos en Florida. Yo vengo de Texas, California, Los Angeles, El Paso, San Antonio. We were here first. You can't be illegal when you were the first people on this continent. Okay? And we need to remind everybody that's what LULAC stands for. So, Mari, muchísimas gracias. Congratulations on a great convention. And those of you who can, I want you to come to Phoenix, Arizona, July 21st, as we make LULAC stronger, better, and the most powerful Latino organization in this country. Gracias.
Thank you. And again, we want to thank him on behalf of the students that are here because he also donated 1 full scholarship. So we're going to let everyone get their meals so we could go ahead and recognize our people that we're here to recognize, which are our students. Okay, so I'm going to ask everyone to please take their seats while you're eating. And if I could have your quiet voice so we could continue with the program. And if somebody around you is talking, please kind of give them a little signal so we could go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and continue with the program. This is LULAC Florida's educational luncheon. And the reason we do this program is because we like to recognize students in our community that are deserving of continuing their education. And as we know, public education has been under attack for a while here in Florida. And I want you to look at each and every one of you, because sometimes we come to conventions, sometimes we attend events, but the next steps are the most important steps that you could take to make change. So Tallahassee has not changed. It's gotten worse. We started with a law of putting assessments and the wrong accountability, because good accountability is always good. But accountability that is not just and hurts children needs to be addressed, right? However, in 2011, we know that in our public schools, they started with these laws that have started from 2011 and are present today. Years ago, everybody knows what, if you're Floridian, you know what SB 6 was, right? And we had a governor, a Republican governor, and my friends who are Republicans here, you have a job to do, okay? Because we need to have conversations with our Republican representatives that they cannot shy away from their accountability to public education. And it's okay to have these conversations and make people feel uncomfortable. It's okay to feel uncomfortable at times, because through being uncomfortable is where we bring change, right? When we're all happy, and we don't really pay attention. But when we're uncomfortable, we pay a little attention, right? So my Republican friends here, you have a big to-do list. You need to meet with your representatives and let them know that what they're doing to public education is a crime. What is happening with immigration is a crime. Their silence is a crime. Looking the other way because you're afraid of losing your seat is unacceptable. Because we are Hispanics, and we have black and brown children that need them to be the representatives that they were elected to be. And just staying quiet is not an option, because we're suffering. Our communities are suffering. Public education is suffering. So today we want to honor our students. But my students, you have a big ask to do. Okay, because now you graduated high school, right? So that means that they have to register to vote and keep people accountable. Because in that group, we kind of get a little complacent and then we don't vote. And you need to be the group that votes the most. So I want to make sure, get your friends to vote and help us go out in the community and register other students to vote, right? And it's a very uncomfortable time for Hispanics in this nation and immigrants, right? The conversation is not a good conversation. But we could either give a blind eye because, we're good and we're comfortable, or we could say, not care, and be apathetic, and it doesn't bring change. Or we could get angry, but turn the anger into action. And that's what I would like for everybody in this room to understand. Your vote is your voice. And we need to make sure in this room that everybody registers to vote, get others to register to vote, and that we change what's happening in Florida for our kids, right? Because we might be okay, but really it's an uncertain time for our children. So today we're going to be honoring 6 students from here, from our local schools. And we were very lucky this year to be able to award these scholarships. We're going to start with the presentation of the Maria Acosta LULAC Council 7232 Scholarship. And Maria Acosta, for those of you who have been here in Miami, know that LULAC in Miami came back strong on education because of Maria Acosta. She was passionate with what was going on with bilingual education, and passionate about what was going on with the whole gamut that was going on with the attacks on public education. So she mobilized a group of us into action. And we want to recognize her today because she started with the scholarships. It was her council that started to work, and they awarded 1 scholarship, then they did 2, and now we all came together and we're doing 6. So that's something that I would like to recognize today. I would like to ask my sponsors, if one representative of the sponsors could come up, because without the sponsorship, this wouldn't be able to happen. So we have Real Talk. FEA, they sponsored us, but he had another commitment, so we want to recognize them today. We have Avant. I know they're in the room. Let me see who, and the Leadership Conference, please come on up. We don't have a representative for Avant? You're coming up? You're not gonna? me see who else, and we don't have her. Did I miss anyone else that's here in the room? Okay, so if you could come up, because thanks to these sponsors, and I want another big round of applause, because without their sponsorship, we would not be able to do what we do in Florida. So we're very thankful. And then I also want to call up three generous people who gave from their own pocket to give a student a scholarship. So Artie Leichner and Susan Leichner. Maria Teresa is representing here Miguel San Pedro. And Domingo Garcia. Okay? And they deserve another round of applause because these students are going to be taking home a check thanks to all of them. So we're going to start our presentation with Tony Bernardo. And from Council 7232, Educators of Inclusive Leadership is proud to present Tony Bernardo the 2018 Maria P. Acosta Scholarship Award for his academic achievement. So you're going to... Okay, our next award is going to Yolanda Gonzalez. And I forgot to say, Tony is going to California College of the Arts. Yolanda Gonzalez from North Miami Senior. And parents could come up, absolutely. And our assistant principal, Elvira Ruiz. Where's... Come over here, take a picture. Okay, and then, and Susan, wait, don't go. Come up here, this is. And Artie and Susan Leichner, this is the second year they give a full scholarship. And Artie used to be our VP for our teachers union, so if you could say something.
You know, Susan and I are both retired. I am the former vice president of the United Teachers of Dade and the treasurer of the South Florida AFL-CIO. We like giving scholarships, but one of the reasons, and it's a real truth, that we chose to give one through LULAC is because Mari is an amazing person. And I like to give scholarships and other things through an organization where I really can totally trust the leadership. And I trust her with my own kids, so thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, the next student is Danielle Tur, and she is not able to be with us, but she did send her representatives, and she is from Terra High School, and she is attending Miami-Dade College. Take a picture of it. Leslie L. Martinez. Her sister is here to receive su hermana está aquí para recibir su scholarship. ¿Dónde está? Aquí. Leslie L. Martinez is from Robert Morgan High School. And we want to congratulate and have her recognized because she's called and she was super excited about the scholarship and she asked her sister to come and represent her. And then we have 2 scholarships for our own LULAC members, okay? I'm not sure if you've been able to know Camille Garcia Mendoza. Camille is vibrant. She went to the Emerge conference in DC. She got chosen to be the speaker of the group, and she's always in the community trying to get her peers to vote. So her dad is here in her place because she's not here, but she will be attending Northwestern University, and she's gonna be going somewhere else, but she's gonna continue to do the LULAC work wherever she goes, and we wanna recognize her. Y Domingo, ven para acá.
Thank you, Marty. All right, I got to see you again.
Yes, so let's do a picture.
All right. It's a great Father's Day present.
And then our esteemed lawyer who has been helping us so much, and life is so funny, and it brings us in circles, because his wife used to work for MDCPS and passed away. She lost her life with the battle of cancer. And, but his generosity will never go unnoticed. He decided to recognize a student, and Ofelia was an accountant, and he's a lawyer. So it was so funny as we were looking, because we really didn't have any applicants that met the bill. And then when he started talking, because I'm always talking about my daughter, and she actually is not here today because she's in orientation, he told me, and what is she studying? And I said, oh, she is going to Quinnipiac Law School. And he go, that's where I want my scholarship to go. So we are very gracious for that, because we don't ever think about our own kids, because, wow, no, right? So when we had that conversation, he said, that's exactly who that scholarship is going to. So Megan is not here. She'll be here tonight, but if they don't cancel her flight. And she will receive the Miguel and Ofelia San Pedro Law School Award. Ven, María Teresa, tú también. No, you're gonna be in the picture. So my scholarship winners, we wish you the very, very, very best. And again, there are no words to say how appreciative we are that you have endured these 12 years in school, and that now you're advancing, because it's so important today. People need to understand how ridiculously high it is to get a degree. They even charge them for breathing in the rooms. I mean, there is a parking fee, there is even if you don't go to the gym, fee. So the cost of having an advanced degree, it's a lot. And even for the football team, even though we like football, our kids really, when they go their student loans, they really don't need to be paying for a lot of these things, okay? So we want to wish you the best and know that there's hope. Things are kind of in turmoil right now, but you are the change. We need you, because we are going to be phased out and you are going to come in. And through your activism and continuing to take the baton of this organization that has been, how many years already? 99? 1929. Yeah, 1929, it's been already around, and we cannot let organizations like this face away. Hispanic Federation, and all these organizations that are here today need our youth to be involved and pay it forward. And that's all we ask from you today, okay? To make sure you pay it forward, just like they did, just like all these people up here have done. And we value you, we care for you, and we wish you the very best. So thank you, and continue enjoying your lunch.